Who knew an iconic app of high school years would literally get an actual film adaptation?
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this review is going to be for a film that came out last weekend. It's for another video game film adaptation of this year, of two done by Universal. And it's for one that was long anticipated from people who have played this app, and this is for a film adaptation of an app that's pretty popular among a few subscribers of mine. And has actually earned a pretty big Halloween weekend opening record. And I saw this on Halloween night. And this film is going to be for none other than last weekend's Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah. This film's finally happened. It was meant to happen for some time. It was a bit at first by Warner Brothers, and then it was done by Universal. But it's finally been made. How was it? Well, what's the plot? Well, a night guard named Mike Schmidt, who has quite a big criminal record, and was recently fired from his security job for punching a mall customer, who we assumed the wrong things about, ends up having to get a night shift at a local diner to be able to support his own sister to avoid losing custody of her after her parents had died, or technically his foster sister. He then, however, becomes troubled after confronting the truth of the animatronic costumes that reside at the local diner that he has to look after that pretty much closed down because kids disappeared. And these animatronics are not animatronics. They are alive. So will Mike be able to survive all 5 nights at this haunted diner, or something more sinister at play? Then how was the film made? Well, around April 2015, during the Five Nights at Freddy's' very popular years, Warner Bros. Announced it acquired film rights to the video game franchise, with Roy Lee, David Katzenberg, and Seth Grahame-Smith set to produce the adaptation. Grahame-Smith said that they would collaborate with franchise creator Scott Cawthon, who co-wrote the books in collaboration with ghostwriting film Kevin Anderson and Associates, in order so they could make an insane, terrifying, and adorable film. July 2015, Gil Kenan signed to direct the film from a screenplay co-written by Tyler Burton Smith. Sadly, though, Warner Bros. Ended up putting the project in turnaround, and it never ended up happening by then. Around 2 years later, though, March 2017, Cawthon tweeted announcing that Blumhouse Productions would be the film's new production company. Then in May 2017, producer Jason Blum said he'd be excited of working closely with Cawthon on the film. Then in June 2017, Kenan said he would no longer be directing the film, so it lost its original director. Then in February 2018, Chris Columbus was going to be Kenan's replacement director and writer at the time, besides also producing the film alongside Blum and Cawthon. In August 2018, Cawthon revealed that the first draft of the film script, which he wrote with co-author of the Five Nights at Freddy's novel trilogy, Kira Breed Wisley, was completed, and it was going to be involved with the events of the series' first game. In that same month, Jason Blum wrote on Twitter that the film was going to be having a 2020 release at the time. Then in November, Cawthon announced he scrapped the script, even though he was liked by Columbus and Blum, because he had a different idea for the story, one that he liked better, and then it contributed to a further delay of the film, for which Cawthon took full responsibility, but knowing how 2020 was, the movie would have probably been delayed anyway from its original release. In June 2020, during an interview with Fandom, Blum stated when he got asked about the progress of the film, he stated it was super active. He really felt like they were having a good shot at seeing a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. He felt like it was really moving forward, definitely not stalled or anything. but it was moving rapidly forward according to him. He didn't want to put a timeline in it, but soon they'd be able to get the movie made, and he felt confident about that. Then, in September 2021, Blum revealed that Columbus was no longer involved with the project, but the project was still in development. Then in August 2022, last year, Blum announced that Jim Henson's Creature Shop would be working on animatronic characters for the film. And the new director got announced in October, and that was Emma Tamimi, would be replacing Columbus, and also co-writing the screenplay alongside Cathon and Seth Cuddleback. Principal photography was even going to be set to begin in March 2021, but script issues happened and filming was delayed. So filming began in New Orleans in February 1st, 2023. It was under the working title Bad Cupcake, and had an estimated budget around $25 million. And the first scene shot of the film, believe it or not, is a YouTuber cameo, Matt Pat. Okay, that's not a shock because this video game series is popular with YouTubers. So it's not a shock that's literally a YouTuber would cameo in this film. Anyways, after the movie was shot and marketed, Five Nights at Freddy's would go on to have both a streaming and theater release on October 26, 2023. Both theatrically released into theaters a day later on October 27th, 2023 by Universal Pictures. And critics, oof. This is predictable for a video game adaptation. It got negative reviews from critics. However, though, that does not matter, because it was pretty much critic-proof because it went on to already be a box office success on its opening weekend. Because it ended up making over $32 million worldwide on its opening weekend against a $20 million budget, and it set several records. It had the second best day-and-date opening weekend ever, which was behind Black Widow in 2021, the best opening weekend for a horror film in 2023, and Blumhouse's best opening. That last record went to Halloween 2018, and is now the second highest opening weekend for a video game film, behind literally the Super Mario Bros. Movie earlier this year. Now, let's get on to my reaction for the movie now. I did see the movie, Halloween Nights, and how did I think of it? Well, let's just say, when it comes to the games in general, never been a huge fan of the game series. I mean, when I was in high school, I remember it being crazy talked about literally from so many teenagers my age and so many other kids my age, when I was in high school around either 2014 or 2015. It was this very popular game series. It was really popular, really crazy talked about along with Pokemon Go. One of the most crazy talked about apps ever. It was everywhere I went. Everywhere. Everywhere that was an app, Five Nights at Freddy's was a big subject. And I've got YouTube buddies that really love the series themselves. One example, AJ Markle. I then heard that fans were really liking this movie, so it gave me hope, and plus, guys, I no longer trust Rotten Tomatoes scores anymore anyways, because I hear that site is now corrupt and full of shit, and pays critics to review the films there, so now I just form my own opinion on certain stuff. Anyways, back to this movie. How was this movie to me? I thought it was enjoyable. But I think this movie is just strictly made for fans of the game than average moviegoers. I didn't mind it, but I didn't overly love it. Then again, I was just never a huge fan of the games anyway, but it's a fun ride. It was a fun ride for what it was. It definitely didn't have any woke crap. It didn't have any SJW garbage. It had some mindless entertainment, and at least there was that. At least it was mindless entertainment, and it respected the fans of the games. But it's hard to write an exciting plot based on this game, because this plot's more like a plot of some cartoon, not really a film, but it's far different from the video game, and it's definitely unexpected. I'm familiar with the concept of the game. It's literally you're playing a security guard, and you're watching a bunch of monitors on a closed pizzeria that's kind of pretty much Chuck E. Cheese's or Peter Piper Pizza from Hell, or all those other arcade pizza places you went to for birthday parties when you were a kid. Those places all from Hell. And usually, if you don't look, an animatronic will come alive and it will kill you and you have to restart the whole game. That's also why I didn't play it. I did actually try playing it one time, and I can never beat any of the animatronics, so I just rage quitted the app. Because I sucked bad at playing it. And if you're expecting that the security guard Mike would be sitting in a room with CCTV through the film, he doesn't. But he's definitely not the only victim of the animatronics of this movie, because there's more. And Mike's not the only one who's engaged in the animatronics coming alive. There's also this other female police officer he meets, who's also engaged in investigation animatronics and that activity for some reason. And there's also Mike's younger sister, who pretty much ends up causing a whole bunch of bad events because of her own curiosity. I'll get to her in a little bit. Now guys, before you're raging at me, those who like this movie are raging at me for not overly loving it. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it could have been a lot better. The best thing though, definitely the animatronics. I think they looked amazing, they're massively crafted, and they look incredible. They definitely should have gotten more actual action in the movie though. And plus, I like that they're not, some people are mad at the designs, but I like that they're not, I actually like that they look more like actual animatronics and they're not over CGI'd. This one, they're not CGI'd for this one, they actually look practical, they actually look like real robots. So I like they got that right. And they didn't make them CGI'd. If they made them CGI'd, they'd probably look like garbage. See, especially because in today's world, CGI is such a joke now. And there's a lot of references for Five Nights at Freddy's fans to enjoy. At the same time, the film takes on a lot of creative liberties. And I just left the movie feeling like they could have done so much more. And the pacing just felt off. And there's a few character moments that felt off as well. Now, I didn't mind the character of Mike. And maybe some interactions he does have with his younger sister. Even though I'm not a fan of her character. And you do get a decent amount of enjoyment out of it, but there's just moments in the movie that felt cheesy, like the tape that introduces Mike to the restaurant glitching, and the scene with one of the kids in Mike's dream turning into a ghost with empty bleeding eyes. That could have been creepy if it didn't look so fake, and the flying cupcake animatronic, that was just utterly ridiculous. It just expects you to take this flying cupcake animatronic seriously. And this cupcake gets a lot of scenes. The other animatronics get some actions in the film, but not much. And Freddy, the mascot of the series this film is based on, he barely gets any in comparison. The flying cupcake gets like far more action than any of the actual animatronic characters were supposed to be seen. So, let's start with the things I did not like. First off, the things I did not like was the script itself. It feels like a mess. Like, I could feel there was probably a better script a few rewrites away, but this is the one they went with. There's way too many plot points, and the movie feels unsure of what it wants to be, and more time should have been spent fleshing out characters like Afton, Abby, and Vanessa. And characters like the Aunt and her thugs, they could have been completely removed from this movie. Their screen time could have been used on the other more important characters. It's kind of like they're just in the movie to give the Aunt Freddy and his buddies victims. As well. And to just give Mike rivals. That was their only role in the film. Just be victims for Freddy and his gang. And speaking of like the female cop Vanessa, she's just a badly written character. She just exists to drop information, and more time would be needed to be used on her to explain who she is. And she acts very inconsistently, with one moment being happy, and then the next threatening to shoot someone. Which is obviously Mike. Because it was during the scene in the fort where the whole team's creating a fort, and then Abby gets this electrical shock, and Vanessa's like, if you bring her back again, I'll shoot you, to Mike. Then you also have William Afton, who's played by Matthew Lillard. Like, I was excited to hear Matthew Lillard was going to be in this film, because I think Matthew Lillard is underrated. And he feels wasted in this movie. Like, he barely has a presence in the movie despite being the main antagonist. He needed more screen time, so his entrance in a violent confrontation wouldn't feel so random. And fleshing him out could also have helped giving us more of Vanessa's backstory. And perhaps, like, we could have seen her childhood and how William's treatment shaped her. And also, this is an obvious one for a lot of people I can agree with. The lack of horror. This movie just... You would expect a scary film from this. this movie's not even scary. Like at all. The trailers make this movie look like it's going to be full of jump scares, but there's hardly much. And it doesn't even land because you see it coming a mile away. And the lack of a creepy atmosphere really just brings the movie down. The animatronics are even a lot that creepy, and most of the screen time is just spent in the middle of the film befriending Abby. Most of the time it's just Abby being friends with these guys, and they're not really that much of a threat. Here, like there's even this really not well written scene where they create a fort with her in the pizzeria. Like, no, aren't these guys supposed to be killers? They're supposed to be killer animatronics. Like, these guys do not even feel like killers. No. Them making a fort, I can't take these guys seriously. And I was disappointed, like, we barely see a single scene of Mike just trying to survive the night, because during his times there, he's told he's not supposed to fall asleep, he's got to watch the whole pizzeria, he's got to stay up, but he keeps taking melatonin to put himself to sleep, and he keeps falling asleep in the pizzeria when he's guarding it at night. So the plot just feels pointless. And some plot lines just don't even look finished in the film. Like, why does Vanessa care so much about the pizzeria? What happened to Mike's mental problems? Like, what's the point of Aunt Jane in the film, the aunt character that keeps trying to get custody of Abby? Not sure if, like, I know there's going to be more sequels coming. They've obviously confirmed sequels because of this film's box office being great. But it seems like too much crucial unanswered questions. And if the low-key first approach wasn't apparent from the previous screenwriters associated with the project, Josh Hutcherson's involvement in this film that plays Mike should have eliminated doubt about that. And Hutcherson plays Mike, who is pretty much preoccupied with the kidnapping of his younger brother years ago, and he finds it difficult to maintain work in order to supply his sister Abby, but he reluctantly accepts a position as a night watchman at a closed restaurant because no other place will hire him due to his bad records and crimes. And has enormous animatronic characters looking in shadowy areas and murder the occasional patron. And the only local police officer to advise him to avoid the area is Vanessa, but she doesn't want to reveal why at first. The fact that Mike pretty much ignores the creatures and is literally ignorant of their menace for the majority of the film makes a difference. Though he does get frightened by the enormous beasts, his primary concern is trying to decipher lucid dreams regarding his brother's death. Except for like a few brief sequences that we keep cutting to this dream of how the whole death of the younger brother happened in a lot of scenes. And we see the 7 ghost children in a lot of times during these moments. And Tammy just sometimes seems more interested in exploring the philosophical issues of what is causing these robots to come to life, and why they might kill than she does in being splattered. And here's another problem. Like, here, is Five for me just scary? It needed a bit more blood. Like, yeah, I get it's a PG-13 movie. Like, what would you expect? I mean, of course we're not going to get an R-rated Five Nights at Freddy's movie because kids play this game. Kids love the Five Nights at Freddy's games. So, why would it be rated R? I mean, the kids who play this game would obviously want to see a movie adaptation of a game they love. So, maybe being PG-13 I can understand, but still try to have a dark tone and still try to have some on-screen deaths. You don't need to be too graphic with them. You don't need to be terrified or too graphic, but have a little bit of realisticness, have a little bit of blood, and just try to be a little more scary. Because Five Nights at Freddy's is supposed to be about tragedies. Here, like, you just get the night guard just sleeping on the job, his little sister wanting to build a fort with these animatronics that are actually deadly and actually kill people. Like, I would not want to be friends with these fuckers. These guys look freaking dangerous. It's so obvious. Like, and when they do any, like, dark action, it's too quick, and it's very predictable how it goes. And, now, though, and most of the characters, they're just really not likable characters. But now, alright, let's get on to the positives now. For Five Nights at Freddy's fans, if you're fans of the games, the movie leaks references to not only the games, but the community. No recent references either, just really old ones that newer fans might either miss and older fans will really love. The entire movie that will leak love for Five Nights at Freddy's fans, love for the animatronics, the game, and the community as a whole. The animatronics here, they're definitely amazing. Their movement and design is definitely the best thing about the movie, even though their roles are not done all that well. The design team really took their time with them. Like, if you want to see the movie just for the animatronics, you definitely won't be disappointed. The movie keeps the fans of the games in mind. There's definitely some cameos, and they showed parts of the Five Nights at Freddy's lore that fans would be most interested in. The special and practical effects look really good too. And when it comes to the character of Mike, I think Mike's character is the only interesting of the film. And from the movie's lore's point of view, like, maybe his backstory with his foster parents would connect later with William later in the franchise. Like, they're obviously going to make sequels to this, so hopefully the sequels can do that part, kind of explore more of his backstory a bit. Another great aspect of the movie is the cinematography. The shots and color are definitely effective. The atmosphere really gives you the first Five Nights at Freddy's game vibe, which makes it feel nostalgic. And it's got some good pacing. Like, for what the movie is trying to accomplish, the pacing is rather impressive in terms of the age range it's trying to entertain. Five Nights at Freddy's story in this iteration may be simple, but if you find out you are presented with a lot of good information and elements with decent time in each, without losing momentum, with plenty of time to give both human characters and animatronics, the film was definitely able to keep various members entertained and not get lost in the added theatricals that are often seen in the books. And there was some funny moments. It's a campy series that has a lot of twisted humor styles that most should enjoy and expect to have in a series. Like, one level is how cheesy a movie version of this would be, and more so the idiocy of the humans and just how humorous the animatronics are in this rendition. Other times, the expressions and personalities of the robots are hilarious. Emotions and the blending with the robotic nature are just so well executed that I couldn't help but laugh at their use. As expected, the movie also sometimes is funny, even when it's not trying to be, because of how cheesy it is or how ridiculous the acting you're seeing comes out to be. And there's some great music too, like for the movie. It's definitely a minor like for most, but I love the track selection and just how fitting into the 80s vibe it goes to set for the moment. And for being a PG-13 horror flick, yeah, it's really not that scary, it's not that brutal, but during the time to just try to be brutal, they do a bit of a good job showing some fatalities. It's mostly the Ants goons that get the best fatalities of the film. And I feel like they're kind of holding back on brutality just a bit, but considering the games don't even show much brutality, it kind of works here. This was never an R-rated series to begin with. Yeah. And now Josh Hutcherson and Piper Rubio lead the movie well with their characters. Their brother and sister dynamic was a little interesting, but it wasn't executed perfectly, because there's times when Abby did kind of annoy me a little bit. To be fair, I mean, she keeps insisting that these animatronics are her friends, and most of the time she's just either annoyed with her older brother, despite the fact that he's trying his best to look after her. At times, she's not really showing much gratitude for that. I mean, a lot of times, and she keeps insisting on going to the pizzeria with him, despite the fact that it's a closed down area, and so she can't really go there, and he decides to just bring her along anyway, if that's going to since they'll finally get a lawnmower there. And he explicitly tells her that she's not allowed to wake up, she's not allowed to go run around to the whole pizzeria area, but she does that anyway, and she runs into the animatronics alive, and claims, they're my friend, don't worry, they're my friends, and friends, this is my brother, and then somehow the animatronics suddenly turn all friendly for a little bit, and then one scene later, when they come back, they're building a fort, they decide they're gonna build a fort. No, that stuff I don't buy. I don't buy these, girl, these fucks are not your friends. These guys are killers. I don't know why anyone would call these dangerous-looking robots their friends. They look dangerous, they look menacing, they clearly just have serial killer written on their heads. And they're clearly possessed by the dead children there. Really? They're not your friends. I'm sorry. No. And of course they turn on and they decide that they want to kill Abby next. So that was predictable to happen. Then of course you got Elizabeth Lale, who did well for what she was getting, but she doesn't get to do a lot, and And I think the Vanessa character is just written just to give Mike a companion, and I just did not like her character. And Matthew Lillard's character. Matthew Lillard is back in the film, and he is wasted in this. He should have been given more to do. Like, come on, you got Stu from Scream and Shaggy from the live-action Scooby-Doo movies playing in your Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Give him more to do. And then when it comes to the whole finale of the movie, how does the whole finale go? Well, yeah, how most of the movie went was when Mike assaulted a negligent father mistook for a kidnapper, Mike pretty much gets fired, and he's sent to visit, and he has to go visit a counselor named Steve Roglin. He offers Mike the job as a night security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It was closed down because children went missing. We know that from the games. He's reluctant at first because he claims he can't take nights, but he's forced to accept the offer after social services and his aunt threatened to take custody of younger sister Abby. And Aunt Jane is just a despicable character you really do not like. And you can tell she's just nasty the minute you meet her, and clearly not fit to be taking care of a kid. Because she only wants a monthly paycheck if she takes care of Abby. So on Mike's first night, he falls asleep because he keeps taking melatonin. He does it throughout the film. And he dreams about his brother Garrett's kidnapping. Then he sees the 5 children that witness it. Mike tries to approach him, but they run away. And then on the second night, he takes melatonin again, and Mike's dream is repeated. When he attempts to confront one of the children, he gets attacked and then wakes up. Then, of course, we see the police officer Vanessa. She notices his wounds and patches him up. She shows him around the restaurant, and we find out more about the story of the restaurant there, though we're already all familiar with it. If we played that 5 Nights at Freddy's app, we're familiar with it. And we find out this Vanessa character is also the daughter of a serial killer named William Afton. And he was apparently the guy that murdered Mike's brother and the 5 children that went missing in the pizzeria and hid their bodies in the animatronics, and their souls were under his control. And then of course, Mike finds out that William wants to murder Abby next, so Mike has to go back to the restaurant with the necessary equipment so he can disable the animatronics. And at the restaurant, Chica, the yellow one, attempts to kill Abby. Mike arrives in time to save her, though. And Mike gets attacked by Mr. Cupcake and is separated from Abby. The animatronics are, however, defeated, but sadly they get reactivated by Steve. The counselor we saw in the beginning of the movie, he arrives wearing the yellow rabbit suit, which kind of looks like Golden Freddy, almost. And he reveals himself to be the serial killer, William, and then he knocks Mike unconscious. Then Abby knows the animatronics need to understand the truth, though, so she draws a picture of William murdering the children. Then Vanessa shows up and we find out she's William's daughter. She attempts to show up and because she didn't want to go with Mike to help save Abby because I would probably ruin her alliance with them. But this time Vanessa decides to grow spine and attempts to stop William from interceding with the plan, but she gets stabbed in the abdomen before she can even do much. And before William can kill Mike, Abby shows her drawing to the animatronics, and they immediately turn on William. Mr. Cupcake bites off part of the suit, triggering his internal spring lock mechanisms and fatally wounding William. The animatronics then drag him into a back room as Mikey and Abby carry a wounded Vanessa out of the restaurant. And she falls in a coma afterwards, and she gets taken to the hospital. Then Mike and Abby return to their normal lives. And his reputation actually does start to improve. And then during their final scene, Mike gives the option of either having pizza or spaghetti for dinner, and Abby chooses spaghetti, which I think choosing spaghetti would make sense because they literally both of them almost died in a pizzeria, so I think they're going to be avoiding pizza for a very long time. I probably would if I was in that situation. I'd be avoiding pizza for a long time if it was going to give me memories of that place. That's pretty much how the movie builds up to this whole finale I mentioned. In all honesty, this finale, it's alright. It's not good nor terrible, but it's just alright. I mean, they don't really build up to the twist of Matthew's character being evil all that well, and more could have been done with his character. But honestly, all honesty though, I just ain't got much else to say because Five Nights at Freddy's, it's an alright movie. If you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, you'll probably really love this movie, but if you're not a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, you'll either just think it's okay or hate it. I mean, there was already a movie that did a similar Five Nights at Freddy's concept called Willy's Wonderland that starred Nicolas Cage. It's already getting a lot of comparisons to that. But this movie, it's alright. It's not terrible, it's not great, but it's just an average time waster. If your kid's a fan of the game, I think you could take them to see this. I mean, there's nothing inappropriate about it. There's no R-rated swearing, there's no sexual stuff, and it's a pretty tame horror movie, so I don't think you should... And I'm sure your kid would probably be, if they probably have been known about the jump scares of Five Nights at Freddy's, they'd probably be familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's. There's not really any of the game jump scares in this one. It's pretty tame for a horror movie, so I don't think they should have much problems. So I think you could get away with taking your kids to this one. If you somehow were able to cave into them begging you to take them to see It when that came out. And again. But it's an alright movie. It's more for fans of the games than simple moviegoers. I'm glad that some of my YouTube buddies are loving this movie, but I was just never too huge of a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's to begin with. What I do like is that it respects the people who love the games themselves, so Temmie has my respect for that. But who knows? Maybe this will end up being what later the Mario movie did for me. I thought the Mario movie was alright when I first watched it, but it's way better now on rewatch. It's now one of my favorite films of the year. So, time will tell. But in the end, Five Nights at Freddy's is a stream online for most filmgoers, or just to see it as a matinee if you want to see this in theaters badly, because it's just simply a decent flick. Nothing too groundbreaking, but it's just a mindless fun advertisement for the app and the Five Nights at Freddy's lore. Anyways, that's it for my view of Five Nights at Freddy's. If you're wondering how to rate Five Nights at Freddy's, here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you are a fan of the app and have been long waiting to see a Five Nights at Freddy's adaptation for some time, then go give it a watch or on streaming, because it's also on streaming and theaters, or seen in theaters if you are a die-hard fan of these games. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rate Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm going to give Five Nights at Freddy's a 6 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, for those of you who really loved this movie, you can tell me that in the comments below. But if you thought this was one of the worst films you saw this year, you can tell me that in the comments down below. I know opinions are probably going to be split. I'm more in the middle. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. And it's more of a stream movie for me. And this is coming from somebody who's never been a big fan of these games. It's just it's a movie made for fans. When Mario came out, I wasn't a big fan of Mario, but I liked that movie better. That film just felt more fresh. I mean, granted, yeah, Mario could have been a little less short, but even that film kind of had more of a clear plot. It was a little bit more better paced. But oh well. It is what it is. Anyway, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.